Hello there and welcome once again to my little arty corner on YouTube. It is art for the soul, or is it creativity for the arty soul? I think that's what it's called. I'm going to have to look at what my hashtags are. This is not very professional. Then I've never claimed to be very professional. The whole aim of my channel, if you haven't come here before, is to share with you things that you too could draw, or to give you ideas of how you could use these things, and basically just have a bit of a chat and try and explain artistic matters and methods and ways of thinking as I see it. Doesn't mean I'm correct for everybody, but it is what works for me. Let's put it that way. So Saturday is sort of like whatever I feel like creating, and it's more to do with creating something that is, in inverted commas, useful, can be given as a gift or made use of. Last week I did a bookmark. Today I'm going to make a card that could be used as a bookmark, because I rather like these long, thin designs. So you'd have seen my little stop motion animation showing you what the materials are you need, but I've put them here in still just in case. And I've lost my point. Oh yes, the materials. Apart from pens, all you're going to need is, I've got a piece of craft card. I thought this pack of card was actually ready-made cards, but it turns out it was pieces of 5x7 craft card. And I love craft card as a background for things. I do not know why. I just do. And I think it's because it's a bit more forgiving if you block and do other things to it. And it's quite sturdy as well. This one's really quite sturdy. It's certainly thick enough for cards. If you haven't got this, do not rush out and buy it. If you've got any fairly heavy card, or as Americans say, cardstock, in your stash, you can use that. I've said I've got a piece that's 5 inches by 7 inches. Yes, we still have things measured in inches in the UK. We are mostly metric. But things like cards are still sold in imperial. So a quick check for those who prefer to use metric. It's 18 centimetres by, and I will move it around, about 12.5 centimetres. That would do it. And then the paper I've got is it's half an inch, so that is, oh gosh, I'll remeasure in centimetres. So it's 2.5 inches by 6 inches. Once I've folded, this piece of card, you need to fold it in half. So this is folded at 2.5 inches along the 5-inch length. And then it folds into this rather lovely long and thin shape. So you need a piece of paper that will fit on there. And so I thought that 2.5 by 6 inches would be quite nice, because it give quite a nice border around it, the craft card, but there's a teeny tiny bit left at the bottom if you want to, so you could add a sentiment of some kind, which you could do by handwriting or hand lettering, or with stickers, or with stamps, or print something out of the computer and stick it on. There's all kinds of things you can get, or you can just centre it and mount it that way. I think if I was going to put a sentiment at the bottom, I may just take another 1/4 of an inch off there. The size in centimetres is, let me have a quick measure here, it's a 15 point, glasses, by my glasses I can see what it is then, 15.1 centimetres, so 15 would do. Let's make it simple. And the other way is 5 centimetres, so that's an easy one, so 15 by 5. So those are what we're going to use. So I will put the cardstock to the one side, and yes, I've cut 2 pieces, or I've got 2 pieces, and I've got 2 pieces of paper as well. Okay, so I've got this as for my design, and I'm being really organised again because I haven't got, oh, excuse me, the bits and pieces I want to use for this. So I've got an 05 out, but I really think I need an 01, about 01 and 03. I've got a pencil so that I can draw my outline. I'm going to use this, and I know that these I think if I use 2 of these, that would be 1 centimetre. That would make it really very narrow. So I'm going to use 1/2 centimetre here, which is, oh, I don't know, about 1/4 inch, is it? Or 1/5 inch, but 1/4 inch should do. Be a little bit on the bigger side. It's because I've picked this ruler up that is, yeah. And the top and bottom, I'm going to leave a slightly bigger gap of about 1.5 of these squares. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just a guideline, because you know I let things spill out. But I think though that larger border at the bottom would look, oops, as I bring this back in, would look quite nice to have a bit more space here, to go with a bit more space there. I just realised that if you pop this up like this, it could be a place name or a desk name, something like that, for a meeting. If you ever go to meetings in person, I don't think we could put it on Zoom, so you could take a picture and stick it up in the corner of your screen. But yeah, so, okay, and then for patterns, and this is the length of the bookmark I did last week, so you can see this is quite a bit shorter, but I was constrained by the size of the card. And this one is a little bit narrower because this is the offcut left. I keep offcuts of paper if they're big enough because they're great for making notes and what have you on them. So I thought I would use the tangle from Tangle Tuesday, the fragment from yesterday. Was, you know, I've picked out a couple of my favourites, but I've got them there. And then these are a little assortment of things I might use, or I could use. I've got a little flower like this. I've got a couple of crystals, and this one is that fragment formed as a crystal. I've got muka, I've got some flux. I love stars, so you can get stars in there. These funny bursts, and sometimes with a little circles in between them. That works quite nicely as well. And this one here is the inside of this, but with lines drawn to turn it into like a seed pod, and I've got my wrong glasses on. Best not to ask. Okay, so let's have a start. With this, you could have the design going horizontally, but I like it vertically. I like to grow up in layers. I'm not sure I do like to grow up as in grow up as a person, but what I'm going to do hopefully is just zoom in a bit so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. And I think what would be nice to do at the bottom here is to start with a layer of sand swirl. What size? That is my 03. Okay. So I'm going to create this layer, or a couple of layers of it, first by putting down these little shapes which are like P's or upside down D's or backwards B's, or however you want to think of them. And I'm just going to start adding some auras. I'm going to be careful to stop these lines at my border, I think, for now. And I'm quite logical about how I add the auras to these, the order in which I do that. Because it's, oh, that wasn't very logical. I went back to the middle instead of going to the outside. At the end of the day, it's not important, I think is the thing. You just go with it. I tend to do it logically because that's the way my mind seems to work with things like this. Okay, I've got enough swirliness going on there, and I know I'm going to fill this space in with this kind of weaving. Like so, and perhaps I'll put just another one over there just to finish that one. And I think I'd like another layer because sand swirl is one of my favourite patterns, but perhaps I won't make these bits quite as long. It's almost like they're just poking up, and I've got to have an odd number. Perhaps these are swirlings, as in baby swirl, like seedlings. So as I'm doing this, how are you all keeping? It's been a bit hairy scary here in the UK yesterday, and we've still got weather warning in place for today. And to top it all, there's a warning of possible snow. So we had really bad winds yesterday. It wasn't too bad with me, as in me, my house. I occasionally heard the wind howling under the eaves and, you know, getting through the ventilation gaps up into the attic, and could hear that happening. But no damage done, nothing of any note, you know, sort of like nothing to see here, move along. You know, this is not the roof you were looking for. I told the wind, and off it went. But gosh, there's been a lot of damage. All public transport was cancelled, schools were closed. For those of you in England, half term in Wales, I think, is next week. I know in England half term was this week just gone. Why? For reasons. I'm not entirely sure. It may be something to do with if the whole UK isn't on half term holiday at the same time, then holidays will be cheaper because there's not so many people clamouring for them. I think that's the theory, certainly in Wales. So, as to how many people are going away on holiday, I do not know. Seems to be a fair few. But there's been reports of trees blown down. We've got two bridges over a major river estuary here called the Severn. And it's a really dangerous estuary. It's got the second highest tidal range in the world. So when the tide comes in, it rushes in. And to add to that, there's sandbanks and rocks underneath and all sorts. And it's quite a wide estuary. And we now have two big suspension bridges that cross it. We've got what's called the Old Severn Crossing and what most of us call the New Severn Crossing, although it's got another name, which I can't remember, but it's just the New Severn Crossing. And for the first time, both of those bridges have been closed because of the dangers to vehicles going over there, getting caught in the winds, because the estuary is like a big funnel. So when it rains, when it blows a gale, you know, the gale force winds are funneled up there and the bridges. And even on fairly secluded places, relatively speaking, there were lorries blown over yesterday, roads cut, there was a tree that fell on a school, people had their fences go, their roofs go, roofs have been damaged, so roads have been closed to deal with roofs that are beginning to lift off and fall off, or trees that have become unstable in the high winds. And I know sadly elsewhere in the UK there's been a small number of people who've lost their lives through it. But I did see some pictures of the sea at Porthcawl. Porthcawl is a sort of seaside area near me. I say near me, it's about a 40-minute drive away. So it's less than 30 miles away, or about 30 miles away by road. As the crow flies, it's closer. But I saw some of the waves with the high winds, because there's a webcam on the RNLI building. RNLI is the Royal National Lifeboat Institute. They provide lifeboats around the coast to rescue people in trouble. And so there's one there, and it looks down the pier, or I suppose you'd call it a pier. It's not a pleasure pier, but it's part of the harbour wall to the lighthouse. And the winds hadn't really, the worst winds hadn't come in, but it was still looking a bit hairy scary there. I bet there'll be people who've gone down to go and have a look, because you tell people it's dangerous and that makes them want to do it even more. But I was happy to look at that from the warmth of my bed in between waking up and going back to sleep yesterday morning. I'm wittering a lot. It's because, high winds. Today we've got crazy rain and high winds. And yesterday I think there was snow or very quiet hail at one point in the day with broken sunshine. Crazy weather. And It's actually, you know, 2 years to now, we had the most horrendous floods here. We really did. And when I say horrendous, it was soul destroying to see all the businesses that were completely flooded out, and homes, and I'm not sure if everybody's returned to the home, but for a long time there were people who still weren't living in their homes. I think it was because of the pandemic, and also confusion about insurance and who was going to pay or not going to pay and things like that. So but the pandemic struck, so that caused problems with any work being done, because nobody, unless you were essential workers, could go to work. And you know, we'd seen what was happening elsewhere around the world, and whether you agree or disagree, you know, it seemed the right thing to do, because nobody knew how severe COVID really was. And I'm not going to get into an argument, I'm a scientist, but for whatever reasons this happened, and of course all work had to stop really. Well, that's a bit of a different one here, because I didn't draw the this inside first, but it's okay, it'll work. So I did this a little bit different to how I drew it, as I created a rice shape in the middle, and it's varied between the three, but they're all essentially the same. A rice shape in the middle of this bow-sided square, this holly motif, holly fragments, and I also echoed inside the square to give it a bit more interest. I think I may just do that and then fill this in with black. So it's this contrast that really helps things to stand out. It also gives me an opportunity to tidy up my untidy lines here. I still haven't come round to properly this morning, despite having breakfast and a mug of tea. I really do feel shell-shocked. I did yesterday. Shell-shocked is a term we use for a bit startled and not quite with it. So yeah, and I think I'm going to pop these in here. See, I'm so desperate to do these things, this little stop motions and with noises like ping, pop, 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 as they appear. But I'm not sure I'd cope with the deluge of little stop animations for all of this. It's fun though. I am having fun playing with them, so be warned. You have been warned. I'm going to be doing a lot of stop motion animation, I think. Certainly need to practice it. And I think it just add a little bit of fun here and there. And it would mean I wouldn't have to witter on quite so much. It could be a fun way of shortening the video for you, but it would take me a little bit more time to create, perhaps. So perhaps Sundays will become stop motion Sunday, so once a week I have carte blanche to do a little stop motion drawing. And I do think it's going to be drawings or animating things like I did the what materials you need for this, which is fun, I think. But then I've always liked kind of stop motion animations. Growing up as a child in the UK, we had many of them, and one of my favourites was called Rhubarb and Custard, and it was a cartoon cat and dog in bright, vibrant, sort of like pinky magenta and green, and the animation, it was stop motion, but it would wobble from side to side, almost like, you know, and it was just I just loved it, the bright colours, that jittery movement. And of course there were so many others as well, and things like nearly all the kids programmes, or sort of like short programmes that I grew up with. There was the Magic Roundabout, there was Crystal Tips and Alistair and so on. Some of them were more traditional, sort of like cartoons. Others, they were distinctly stop motion clangers. The clangers, oh my gosh. And with Ivor the Engine, you'd have backgrounds, beautifully painted backgrounds, and then the characters and the steam engine and so on, it was all stop motion animation. And then in my later years, in my 40s, I was introduced to Through the Trapdoor, which uses little plasticine models of little monsters and living in a grave and Boney, a skull and so on. And the trapdoor, sort of like Burke was never supposed to open. Burke was the main character, big blue creature, because it would let all kinds of monsters into the castle. And of course Burke opened there to get rid of rubbish and things, and all this stuff would come out. And it was just absolutely wonderful. And the humour was quite adult. It was narrated by Willie Rushton, who had a very dry sense of humour and voice. And I've still got the DVD here. I bet you could find it on YouTube. In fact, I'm sure you can. Through the Trapdoor. Absolutely wonderful stuff. And then, of course, we had the big thing in the UK was Aardman Productions, Wallace and Gromit. Oh my gosh. They took sort of like using claymation, using like plasticine or clay models to the next level. Nightmare Before Christmas is another one that was stop motion. And I like the ones that are a bit more jittery. I have to say that there's something charming about that little bit of jittery motion. And there's all the Legos. And there's so many makers and creators on YouTube that do this. It's fantastic. They do a far better job than I can. But I suspect everybody starts out somewhere. So I've just added a layer of flux. I am talking so much because it's exciting me. Art excites me, and doing something a bit different also excites me. So let me get on with this, because I'll be here for a month Sundays otherwise. So I think I'm going to pop in some crystals here. And I think I may have them. Actually, that one could do with an extra face, but the line there would actually go behind there, so I don't need to worry about drawing it in. And I may actually do that with this one. There we go, like so. And we'll have one up here. Which I'm going to put behind. So this face would come down there. That one would go there, that one there. And the fact they've got different numbers of sides on them isn't a worry or a problem for me. I'm quite happy for them to be different. In nature, unlikely. On my drawings, well, it's one of my favourite things. I can do what I like. Because it's my drawing, it's my little world I'm creating here. And perhaps just pop those on like that, and then we'll have another one that's got a bit of a stubbier top, and that would work quite nicely, I think. Right, okay, let me just chase up these lines a bit, and here. That eventually will get filled in with black again to help just separate things out. I'll come back and add little details onto this, finer details. Now I do want to add some coming from this direction, I think, just to finish my layer off here. So we can add a couple in like this, I think, because that gives the illusion of them being behind. That would go to about there, so we want that one coming there. Perhaps like this, and I'll fill that in with black while I'm here, because that will make a bit more sense if I fill that little bit in with black. This one is all sides, yeah, parts of the crystals, so that's quite nice. And then have a look. I expect I've been off camera because I've been focusing on this. Oops, I do apologise, but I think that's okay. And perhaps just another one up here, perhaps. So I can have that going there, that there, and that one there, perhaps one there. It's a very strange shaped one, that. So let's just add another. I'll use that line for that one, and that would make perhaps a little bit more sense. Maybe not. We've got quite a few crystals growing on there. Growing being quite the description. Okay. I don't want to fill this area with crystals, but I think what I'm going to do is pop in some of my flowers. Oh, it looks like these are going to have black centres because I started colouring this one. So that's decided for me what I'm going to do with them. It is the contrast that I think is needed to help bring some structure to these. Helps to separate the different elements out, and it gives that weight or variation that's needed. Perhaps black may not have been such a good idea for these, but it is what it is now. Those, I'll pop another one here, and I think I'll leave filling in with black just for a moment. Pop another one here. I think this is going to be one that spills outside the lines, as it were. I can't cut petals off, can I? Well, I could, but I'm not going to. And then we've got this one that needs to be filled in with black. It's also looking for those little spaces between petals, or between petals from different flowers that need filling in. And then this all here will be black down the side. Because I could have put a partial crystal in there, but I think it's that distinct black, it ties in with this over here. And I think I'll lighten those centres up in a little while, because I'll use a white souffle pen to add some white spots to them. And I think that would work quite nicely. And I can fill these dots with the white souffle as well. So let's do a couple more over here. Just to create that band across, or the layer of flowers. Simple ones this week. Sometimes simpler is a lot better than complex. I think it depends on the scale at which you're drawing as well. is quite a small drawing. It's still taking me a fair amount of time to do, but it's still quite a small drawing. So that creates something that's quite nice there. Okay, I've just realised I've been recording for just over half an hour, and I think I've spent most of that time not drawing but talking. Wallace and Gromit. I do like a bit of cheese. That's very Welsh. They don't speak with Welsh, they speak with a Yorkshire accent. But yes, I do enjoy cheese. Wallace and Gromit. Well worth looking at. They did a feature-length film which was fantastic. To go and see it in the cinema, and I laughed so much. And the detail in everything, oh, it just blows my mind. Of course, Nightmare Before Christmas is one of my favourite films as well. Halloween at Christmas, oh yes please. One is not a fan of Christmas. That's the royal one, as in me. There we go, so we've got these here which are lovely, and I think I may pop, I think I might just pop some of the square holly fragments in, but not as a grid, but as individual fragments, almost like individual little pendants or some such. So I'm going to pop the line in, put the leaf in like that, and I think I'll just pop that in there. So I'm going to overlap them, they're going to be different shapes. So again, this is a contrast with what I've done already. I've got quite organic shapes, then I've got the very geometric crystals, then I'm going back to more organic shapes here, or more geometric shapes rather. So it's that variation that makes things interesting, an interest. I'm remembering to fill in with black where there would be a space here, because the black background is what I'm going for, and I am going to put some little either gold or white dots on there to suggest stars. Gold might be fun, or silver might be fun actually on top, on the middle of these flowers. I just went to tidy that up and realised there's no point because I'm going to put stuff over it. So one more of these. I'm not quite sure that these work in the way I intended them here. But I think they'll be okay, because I'll work with them, because what I'm going to do is make the outermost lines, or the lines on the left and on the bottom, and on the right, the top and the right of the inner box. Well, you can see what I'm doing, to create almost like boxes. And then one last one here, though I may put another one in on the other side, because that would make a nice so I'm going to thicken the lines at the top. I can't do the bottom because I could with this one because it's right on top of this one, and then on the inside like that, so we get like a frame. And then I'm going to pop my little holly leaf in there, and I'll do the same with this one. Like so. And I've got this one going this way, so I'll pop this leaf in this way with the little baubles there. And then if I think about which ones are on the bottom and to the left, the sides of these, then I can add some dimension to the leaf as well, I think. Which would be quite nice. Okay, so we've got those. So next, oh, what can I pop in here? Quite a geometric area here, haven't I? I think I might. Shall I? Yeah, I think so. I think we could pop in. I'm going to pop in a little arch here. Like so. And I'm going to put a zigzag in there. Like so. And I'm also going to make this line here fairly thick. So I want this one here to look as if, tidy that up, we're looking into a we're looking into a different world. I'll come back to the zigzags in a moment, but what I want to do in here is I'm going to keep the background white and I'm going to put black stars in here. Though I may change my mind and just colour this all in black and then put little dots in to represent stars. Actually, I think that's what I might do. But let me come, I'll get a different pen to do that though. Excuse me. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to do holly as a border. So along each of the lines of the zigzag, I'm popping in those curved sort of V shapes to create the leaves, just as we would do in the square or any other shape. So I've got a border of them there. Let me just go and get a different pen a moment. Oh, hang on. Perfect one in here. A one in here, should have. Yep, two. Rattling of pencil cases. So, for whatever reason, I've tidied my trays of pens up that were on the desk. Put them somewhere else because they were getting in the way yesterday. So I've got a piece of digital art I started yesterday for someone. I'm doing a phoenix for them. And so I need to move the computer screen closer to me because my computer screen is also my drawing surface. It's like a drawing tablet, but it's built into the, it's part of the computer. It's also the computer screen. And I find it absolutely fantastic to work on. I absolutely love my Surface Studio, though whether I'll get another one I don't know, because I may try a Wacom tablet when the time comes for me to update my hardware. But for now everything's working tickety-boo and is as fast as I would like it to be. So I'll come back and add some white in there, so that does look like I'm looking through something. So I think I may need to do something with the arch. And I think what I'm going to do there is I'm going to use a pencil and I'm going to use this, oops, to put in a border, and then my next layer I'm going to start from this border. And I think what I'm going to do here is use a couple of Muka to create the top of that arch, and I can just finish that circle off there like that, and I'm just going to do that, rounding corners with the Mukas, and then that gives me an ornate little arch there, which I quite like. So that works nicely. Adding weight to the lines, to the bottom and to the left. A little bit here, and then I will do it this one will need to be that little bit thicker on this. Well, looks like my pen's decided it wants to go wherever it wants to go, so we go with it. So there we are, so we've got that. And then up here I'm going to add some more flowers. Because I think that would be quite nice too. So it's always lovely, I find it lovely to repeat a motif I've used. And then fifth flower here. And then I'm going to fill the centres in all in black, and I'm going to do the same down here, because I'm going to come back with a gold or a white pen to add colour. Really could do with a more flexible nib one of these, or a brush pen to do this with. This was in my pencil case, so we're nearly there. Nearly. If I didn't witter so much, you must probably have a shorter video. But I do witter on. And my problem is I can't talk and draw. It's the pen I want. So I do want to try and squash one in here, I think. I can have it going outside the lines, but I'll make it just that little bit smaller. I've just realised using a thicker pen may make me think I'm filling that in quicker, but I'm not, most probably. Ho hum. There we are. So we've got some flowers in there. Then above this, I think I might pop in a couple of crystals, but I think I'll pop them above the top of the arch. And with these crystals, I've got the lines going inwards towards the bottom. So let's have another one here. Tucks behind, and perhaps just another one here. Like that. So that's my crystals all done. And then I'm just going to fill this top bit. I think I'm just going to fill the top area here with sand swirls. I think so. I'll tidy that up though. Really am having trouble with my coordinations today. So I think sand swirl at the top would echo really nicely the sand swirl at the bottom, but I think I'm going to get this working perhaps a little bit differently to how I did in the bottom. I'll use a different method to fill this space in. So first, let's just give me my border, my edge here, which I'm going to work towards, and that will then help me work out where I want these to be to fill this space in. So I've got a couple coming from the sides, so I think I can most probably have some coming from the top. Yeah, so we're getting there. So I think what I'll do is I'll finish this off screen, I'll tidy it all up, and I'll come back with the finished version, and then put together the card with this on. That makes sense. So I'll see you in a little while. We're already 45 minutes long, so I'll see you in a bit. Oops. Well, here I am back, and I forgot to record me sticking the finished drawing onto the card. I've used a silver jelly roll pen to add the dots to the design where it was all black, and I've also put, hopefully you can see, if I take my glasses off you can see the screen, a border around the edge, and at the bottom here I've just put a little heart with some little twiddly bits around as a little embellishment at the bottom. I have had a bit of a moment because I erased the pencil, and I really should have left it there for a couple of hours before trying to, because I have smudged the silver, so I'm gutted. So there we are, it's done. I just added some stippling around the mucas at the bottom just to add some shadow. I've added these little lines to the crystals to suggest little cracks and forms in it, a bit of interest. And there was something else I did. Oh yeah, these holly fragments, I put a bit in the middle, you know, a repetition of the holly shape in the middle, and I've just put lines across it, horizontal lines or vertical lines to that central line. Perpendicular lines would be correct, I think, to the central line. And just to add some shadow and some interest, because it was looking a bit uninteresting there. What would make this is colour. Here the tumbleweed flow, or shadow. Again, here the tumbleweed flow, because I know if I do that I'm going to muck it up. So I'm keeping mine just plain black and white as it is. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I did spend some time figuring out how to make an envelope for this, and essentially this is the plan. You'd need a piece of paper that is 5 3/4 inches by 9 inches. You score at 5 1/4 inches from one side, and from the other side you score at 1/4 inch. You can do that using a ruler, or if you've got a scoring board, or even a cutting, a paper cutter that's got a hollow in it. You can use a ball tool or a dry ballpoint pen, something like that, to run down then, use that, the guide, as your scoring place. But don't put the cutting blade down, but you can do that. And then you need to score 3/4 inches up from the bottom, 1/4 inch down from the top, and then you need to cut areas out. So if I get I've got a pastel here, so you need to cut here, along here, this out and this out. These need to be cut out, and this area needs to be cut out. You see how I've angled these? Oh, and there needs to be a bit cut here, because angling these will give a nicer finish to the envelope. And then you put glue, so let's use a different colour. Let's use one that will stand out. I'll use a blue, a light blue. So glue goes on here, and it goes on here, and then this will, you fold this under and stick it to that side, you fold this under and stick it here. This one you don't put glue on, but you can put glue on if you decide to close it permanently, or to send in the post or whatever. If that makes sense, fantastic. Awkward measurements because it's in inches. I haven't measured for centimetres. That's, yeah, my head does one. I can't do the other at the same time. So I think my apologies to those who don't work in Imperial anymore. But I know that the vast quantity of my viewers are American, who still do. So, but I will, if I remember on my blog, I'll do I don't know, time's running away today with me. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope the little explanation of an envelope makes sense. If you want me to show making the envelope for this, leave a comment and I'll do a quick video tomorrow and I'll show you how to do it. Yes. So, all it means is I'll just like to say thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you'll have a go at drawing this design or something very similar to it using these fragments in together in Unity. And if you do, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you for subscribing if you already have. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And I'll see you again very soon. Until then, take care and be creative. Ta-ra. Bye.